While we get that, let's take a few questions and we'll get that going so we don't delay on time. Let's take a few questions if people have questions. So this is the portion where the audience can kind of reflect on what they've heard, maybe share a story and ask some questions. So does anybody have any questions or any comments that they want to make while we prepare for our video? Yep, we have somebody in the back.
Hi, I am a teacher at the Juvenile Care Center here in Midland, Michigan, and I would like to ask, I'm sorry, I forgot what your first name was. Yes. Debbie.
At River Jordan, yep.
We have so many kids that age out of the system that have nowhere to go after they leave us. And if I could, I would love to get your contact number because we have placed them in different homes in Saginaw and Bay City. And they have no parents. They're wards of the court, wards of the state. And I just think that what you do is very commendable. And I would like to get your information so we can chat about how I can maybe connect some of my kids that leave.
Absolutely. We have 2 houses in Bay City. One we had to idle for lack of funding. We have an 8-bedroom house that we need to raise $55,000 and we'll be able to open that again. That has 8 bedrooms that we can bring in youth. We have a 3-bedroom house, women's house that we have 1 open bed right now. So yes, we'll connect. I'll give you my contact info.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I do. Okay. Thanks. This question is for the whole panel, really anybody who wants to answer. So I've heard about ACEs. I have some personal, professional experience and personal with that too myself. And I also hear about the foster children and just teens, youth who are like, I'm myself, please don't bother me, parents or adults. We're trying to find trusted adults. And then we have parents or caregivers, adults who are unsure what to do and or reaching this like emotional point where they might tip over the line. So my question with all of this in mind that we've discussed tonight is, what risk do you think that we are holding as a society to continue even after 50 years plus of research about spanking and physically harming the bodies of our children and youth, to teach them? What risk is it that we still have laws that say you could put an open hand on someone to teach them anything?
I want to make sure I understand your question. So you want to know how can we impact the laws and like the lawmakers? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the question was, what risk do you think that we have as a society to continue to have the laws the way they are? And that line, I heard some ambiguity, and I think that's part of the problem, is that there's such a wide range, as long as it doesn't leave a mark, basically you can do it. So right. What risk do we have as a society to continue to allow physical punishment as a method of teaching our children? Because we see the effects. We're saying, okay, what's abuse, what's not abuse, right? But we all know that the person, we haven't talked about the kids and what they think is abuse. We have laws, we have adults who say what's abuse. But then we also have ACEs that say, maybe that's a little bit more of a gray area. So what risk are we carrying as a society to allow the laws to state it is okay to hurt somebody's body to teach them, a minor?
I think you answered your question a little bit. The risk is that there is a gray area, that we can't really agree on, there's a lot of things that we can say are definitively abuse or definitively, I don't know if there are things that we can definitively call not abuse, but that would just be benign things that have no relevance, but yeah. But when it comes to spanking and the whole thing that underpins the whole spanking debate, because this has been going on for years, we all know it's been going on for years, is that parents go into it with the idea that when we regard spanking as discipline, we accept the idea that it is teaching something, and that's where the line is drawn when it comes to abuse. Because when it comes to discipline, the hope is that the child learns something. But in a lot of cases with spanking, what the child is learning is that I can't trust my parent when I've done something wrong. because it doesn't bake into the structure of that reaction that this is why what you did is wrong for whatever reason. This is like, and it doesn't give the child a space to voice their feelings of like, why did I do this thing? So I think it's hard to kind of unilaterally, it's hard for a lot of people to kind of unilaterally say that like spanking is like cold hard abuse, because a lot of parents that are otherwise like quote unquote normal have this idea that it's like in the best interest for their children, and we kind of feel uncomfortable equating that with like people that come home in maybe like a drunken stupor and like break their children's bones.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to recognize what impact it has as opposed to what's the intention of it, because I think a lot of times the impact is not what is intended by the parents, and that is something that needs to be recognized as it's taken forward.
Yeah, and I appreciate your question. Thank you so much, Ree. I appreciate your question, and I think that the part that we're not discussing is that we're dealing with cultural differences. I mean, it's just a real thing. We're dealing with cultural differences and also religious differences, right? Some people swear by it. Right, that is the way. That is the what is it? Spare the rod, spoil the child. I mean, that is a real thing that people will heal. People will die on. So I think that that's something that we also have to add into this conversation, is that culturally, people align discipline with physically touching someone. Is it right or wrong? I don't necessarily agree with it, but is it something that people do? Yes. So we have to have those conversations as well, dealing with the cultural aspect and, of course, the religious aspect, because if people equate, being closer to, being closer to God with this line of discipline, how do you tell them that's wrong? How do you communicate that, right? And again, this is not advocating one way or the other. I'm just trying to paint a picture of what's a real thing that we deal with in our society, right? Does anybody else want to add to that? Yeah.
I would add to that. So I actually think that there probably has been somewhat of a cultural shift. I think this is, you mentioned that it's, there might be religious aspects to it. I think it's very generational. There's probably a lot of us that could look back at our childhoods that could say, I was spanked and all that, but do we do it now as with our children? So a lot of that's changed in that, like, I would say when I was a kid, I don't remember timeouts really being a thing.
Oh,
and more,
gracious, no.
That's what I hear of as being used for discipline and so on, as opposed to spanking. So it's not saying that spanking has gone away or any kind of physical discipline has gone away. I do think it's probably not maybe quite where it was at because of, prior generations. I think there's been somewhat of a cultural shift there with it.
Yeah.
That's probably more anecdotal, and maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I know that probably didn't answer the question, Amy. I can't see you from back here, but I know that probably didn't answer the question. But that's something that we're still working on, right? Unfortunately, even the fact that, again, you can still, the open hand, under, whatever, blah, 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 all that good stuff, where people still equate that with being okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
A lot about today is we've spoken a lot about abuse and neglect and some ways that we could punish the children, and I think that's an important topic to talk about. But what's in my heart is our children are eventually going to be our next generation of leaders. They are going to be the people that are going to continue to contribute to the evolution of our society. What can we do to foster environments that help our children to see the light and the fire that's inside of them so they can continue to evolve our society and make it a better, happier, healthier place, whether that's in the homes with the families, whether that's in the school system, extracurricular activities, sports, youth groups, what have you. How can we foster environments where we help these kids see the power that they have to make a change?
Thank you.
Recognize that children are watching. That's one of the first ways. Recognize that children are watching what we do, what we say, how we interact. They are watching. And if you are a safe adult in a child's life, they're watching you. If they don't have a safe adult at home and they do have one at school, they are determining which side is the safer side. They are watching. When you shared that part of her story is there was a teacher in her life that stepped up, fifth grade teacher that stepped up and was that person in her life. This is what we know about ACEs. ACEs are not the end of the story. We are not the sum of what happens to us, right? We're not. ACEs aren't the end of the story. And all the research of all the things that are wrong, there is also research that says there are some things that can be right. They call these positive childhood experiences. And what they have found is that even with someone with a high ACE score, if they have positive childhood experiences, their outcomes go up exponentially.
Yeah.
That's significant. So research is now showing us that the absence of positive childhood experiences are actually more detrimental than the presence of ACEs. I have an ACE score of about a 7 out of 10. Been married to my same boo for 22 years.
All right, boo.
Got 2 kids, one in college doing well. The other one, well, she my mini-me, she getting there. Bless her heart. She figured it out. I am working towards getting a doctorate. I have been in my same profession. I've pastored for 25 years and I serve our community. I work in our community. I don't say that to say, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm telling you this because I had a positive adult in my life. I was engaged in my community. In the places that I lived, I felt engaged. The environments became safe for me. And it taught me how to regulate my emotions based on those relationships. Those are building blocks of positive childhood experiences. The fact that sis is on the other side of human trafficking tells me she has them. So when we talk about the future for our kids, I'll tell you a really good place we can start. Let's talk about these foster care kids, right? There are 249 foster care kids waiting for a CASA. A CASA is a court-appointed special advocate. Anybody in this room can be a CASA. You give 4 hours a month. If we're talking about the next generation and how we can help them get from here to there, we need to be present here and not wait for there. They are not human becomings, they are human beings, right? And we need to invest and get in the fray now, not when they get older. So volunteer. What's your youth organization or youth serving organization? Boys and Girls Club, it's Boys and Girls Club and Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, CASA. There are tons of opportunities. What about parenting support? Can you be a parent advocate for a parent who's struggling? It's getting involved now and not waiting for the later.
Yeah. And I want to add too, was somebody about to say something?
Yeah,
Okay.
just one quick thing.
Sure.
There is a training that we started to be offering in the community, similar to that on the positive child experiences. Hope is the name of the training, so that is coming to our community. We have several people that are now trained in it, so that people understand those things, so they can instill those in families and kids. And then the other piece with the parents, there is a positive discipline training out there, because there's a lot of parents that just know what their parents did or what their grandparents did, and they don't know anything else. So they think that's the only way to discipline their kids. So there is avenues for that, so more to come on that.
Yeah. And sometimes if I can, go ahead, Jen, did you want to say something? No, please.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm going to piggyback on there is that I think everything that everyone has said is spot on, as long as we're allowing kids that have behavioral issues to be in those spaces. Because typically that's the kiddo who we might have a sign that they're not allowed, or we're going to try slightly, but they get this much of a shot. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's difficult, but
Very hard. Yeah.
they have to be there.
Yeah.
They have to be there. We have to invite them back. We have to expect that they're going to make mistakes, right? Sitting next to Kevin, he's a perfect example, and I have kids in the back of my mind that I know Kevin has said, like, y'all are going to take a pause, and then you can come back in a couple of weeks. But it's always been, you can come back for the most part. And so that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all over the place. So.
We can't throw them away again.
We
Right?
can't
We
wait
can't-
for them to become.
These
What
perfect-
did you say? They're
Human
yeah.
becoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we
can't
aren't,
wait for them
right?
to be perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
There's no such thing as damaged goods. Nobody's damaged goods. There's always hope. Some of you might have had some of these experiences and they're striking a chord for you, and you're an adult now, and you might have your own children, and you might be thinking all these things I did wrong. It's okay. Everybody can heal. Everybody has the capacity to heal. And one of the things that we can do, just even starting at home, is being curious about ourselves, our own stories, where those stories come from, and how those influence the person that we are and the person that we want to be. If I could just also add, a fellow therapist that's sitting back there, Nicole, I don't know if you want to raise your hand real quick, Nicole? Is she still here? Yep, there she is. So Nicole and I have a lot of experience working with children and families. We are going to be offering an opportunity for people to continue the conversation and talk about that very topic. And we have some flyers back there if you would like, if you're curious about digging a little deeper and thinking about your own experiences and how those impact you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We had another, and really quickly, go ahead, Ali, stand up. But really quickly, I want to add that